and it's nearly free. Does anyone know what that pill is called? It's called exercise. It's called, see if, I'm already going to break this out. Bill Maher, whatever you think of him, he's brilliant in tons of ways. I watch him a lot. But he was talking about how I didn't bring up these studies, but there are a lot of studies that show that exercise is better than antidepressants at curing your depression. Better than antidepressants at curing your depression. And he talked about all these studies, and he said, forgive this word in advance, he says, so talk to your doctor to see if getting off your ass is right for you. So, some other studies. Okay, grip strength, an indispensable biomarker for older adults. Grip strength predicts overall strength, upper limb function, bone mineral density, fractures, falls, nutrition, cognitive function, depression, sleep problems, diabetes, multimorbidity, which means more than one disease at one time, and quality of life. All based on your grip strength can be predicted through that. They said further in this study that grip strength is a better predictor of mortality from heart disease than is blood pressure. Your grip strength predicts how long your heart is going to last more than your blood pressure. Pretty interesting. Muscle mass is a huge predictor of longevity. So it's not so, what this study found is that body fat had very, very little to do with our longevity, which is contrary to a lot of people's belief. What really has more to do with it is our muscle mass underneath. So very, very, very important. I won't bore you with a bunch of studies, but we're going to get into this, why exercise is so dang important. And the doctor says to his patient, if you can't read this, what fits your busy schedule better? Exercising, it said 1 hour, but I changed it to 4 minutes because you're going to learn how you can exercise for 4 minutes. 4 minutes a day or being dead 24 hours a day, okay? So we don't have a choice. We have a much more sedentary lifestyle than we did even 20 years ago. We got to get off our duffs, okay? So here's why and here's how. So today is the 7 habits of highly effective exercisers, okay? Who's heard of Stephen Covey, the dad? There's Stephen H.R. Covey or something, that's the son. Stephen Covey wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Brilliant. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That book opens with a story. Picture that you're at a funeral and you walk into the back of the room where the funeral is and it's packed. And everyone's saying wonderful things about this person and they're celebrating the life of the person and you're just thinking, wow, this is amazing. And you get up to the front and you look in the casket and it is you. It's you, right? So it's about begin with the end in mind. So if we want to end our life in a certain way, so that would mean 10 years, 5 years before that, 10 years before that, 20, however many years you do or think you do have on this planet, if you want to begin with the end in mind. How do I want to be my last years? We want to talk about not just lifespan, but a new term which is called health span. Health span. Boy, that's harder to say than I thought. Health span. How many of you want health span and functioning really well till a very old age? I know I do. I'm going to be running on the beach when I'm 100. I've had a few setbacks on the way to there. Wow, I didn't realize the crowd was going to be this rough. So
nothing about old age.
Yeah, right. But I'm aging more quickly in some ways because I make not the best decisions all the time. But because of that, I got to work extra hard. But it doesn't mean I don't got to work. Excuse my bad grammar, but it's for a poetic point. So there are 10 things that I will submit. This is from CrossFit. A lot of what I've learned is from CrossFit. I'm a certified CrossFit trainer and a certified CrossFit Kids trainer and things like this. But we're not going to be talking a ton about CrossFit. But there are 10 generally recognized physical skills, all of which need to be present to function into older age. Okay, so speed, flexibility, strength, stamina, cardiovascular endurance, power, coordination, agility, accuracy, and balance. Okay? How many of you know, by a show of hands, that you have a weakness in one or two of these areas? I know I do. Not pretty much, everybody is. It's like the spokes of a wheel. Some are going to be stronger and better than others. So, interestingly, the needs of Olympic athletes and the needs of our grandparents or people over 70, 80 is going to differ by degree, not by kind. So this is Franco Columbu, very famous bodybuilder, also a chiropractor. He needs to deadlift. You need to deadlift boxes and things like this. We all want to do it safely and normally. And there's this kind of well-known debate this medical doctor is telling these personal trainers, we do not want our adults deadlifting. We don't want them learning how to lift weights. It's dangerous for them. And the trainer says, oh really? So they're going to get home with the bag of cat food in the back of their car, and they're going to lift it out of their car, and they're going to go there. They walk to their front door, they set it down, they got to open their door and then bend over and pick it up and walk in with the cat food. They're going to do that whatever we say. The only difference is I want them to do it safely and you don't, right? So I want you to do it safely. Everybody say safely. Safely. I want you to do it safely. And with that in mind, we need to take care of the structure of our body, because what controls how well we exercise, as well as our heart rate, as well as our heartbeat, as well as our reproduction of cells, as well as our immune systems, as well as our hormonal systems that create the responses to exercise. What controls all that? The spine, the spinal cord inside the spine, right? So we want to keep good normal structure and posture. In every science in the universe, except for in modern medicine, structure determines function. Structure determines function. So how well all this stuff works is dependent on your structure. So very importantly, spinal rehab comes first. So this is assuming we're already doing our spinal rehab and doing it well. How many of you know you could bump up your spinal rehab a little bit? Okay. All right, let's get on that a little bit more. Okay. Principle number 2, run what you brung. Now this is a brilliant grammar, but it comes from car racing. Okay, so you show up and you have a little problem in your suspension in your race car. What are you going to do? Call it a day? No. Tire pressure's a little off and you don't have your pressure gauge, you don't have your pump, your compressor. What are you going to do? Not run? No, you're going to run. You're going to run what you brung. So this is a little bit emotional for me. So this is a year and a half ago. This is my son and me. He, at this Ironman, most of you know this, but an Ironman is where you swim 2.4 miles and you get out and then you immediately get on your bike and bicycle 112 miles. Then you immediately get off and you run 26.2 miles. And so my son was the youngest competitor there. He had turned 18 about 2 weeks before, and that you have to be 18 to do it. And this is me. So how many of you know that? So just under a year later, so I think everyone knows this, I broke my neck body surfing. The question often is, are you going to never body surf again? I will definitely body surf again, because that's how I don't live my life in fear. Now, I maybe should have a little bit more fear. This was a fluke of an accident, and stuff happens. And I had, probably 48 or 49 years of very consistent body surfing, and I did it my whole life, never a problem. And I had one accident. I'm just not going to live in fear. I'm not going to do it. Now, I wouldn't do it the same way on that same beach where there was a shore break and the same thing. But I've fallen a long way from this level of fitness. So what do? Throw in the towel and just give up? That's not consistent with my goals or with my vision of myself. So some of us need to retool our vision of ourselves in order to get where we want to be. Okay? Now I'm raising my hand because I know I need to, because I fought some real demons with this issue. Okay? I remember 2 or 3 days after surgery, and I was kind of on a high, actually. I don't mean from drugs, because I was done with the drugs. And so I said to myself, I feel so blessed. And the reason that I said that is because I feel so blessed, because I can walk and I have some function in all of my limbs. And I am thoroughly convinced that God preserved me. And how he did it, I have no idea, and I'll probably figure out someday. But I just feel like something amazing happened there, and I'm very, very thankful. But 2 or 3 days after, I was sitting in my hospital bed, and I don't know whether this was God communicating it to me, whether it was just my own heart. But I felt in my heart, you're going to have some serious discouragement. Be ready for it. And guess what? It came. And so I made this kind of compilation video, and I'm terrible at making videos. I won't be sideways the whole time, I promise. But so this is about, first of this is a video that I made on a run a week and a half ago, actually 2 weeks and a half ago, with my dog. And so something that I thought of, that I wanted to share about the concept of run what you brung, is here in this video. Can we? So that. Okay. So we got to go back. Thank you. Okay, here we go.
Incredibly principle of fitness is run what you brung. After my surgery 4 months ago, cervical fusion, there's pain throughout my spine, muscles, all sorts of things. But if I just cave to that, and if I just go weak and just sit around on the couch, my body's going to freeze into that shape and never recover. So you got to somewhat, sorry to say this, but no matter what your fitness level, you might be a tenth of what you were 10 years ago, but run what you brung, and you got to, maybe gently, but you got to push through those barriers to get and stay strong, because your family and the people you care about are depending on you for the future. So take care of yourself and run what you brung. What you're looking at here is Shamise Peak. Looking at, you can't see it, but Mount Shasta. It's raining up here, but it's all worth it.
That was me a few days after surgery. Barely moving. That was 7 days after surgery. Writing. Now notice there my biceps are almost gone because the nerves are so compromised. This is working up the wall, keeping that motion in there with an amazing physical therapist. Squats, all sorts of movements, working on all 10 types of fitness. Can barely push that stick up. I mean barely. That right arm is so weak, and it is severely painful to move in that range of motion. Lifting my right arm above my head like this is absolutely searing pain. This was Halloween, which is why the Viking hat in her costume. This is 2 weeks after surgery. That is here in Reading, doing physical therapy, doing balance. This is sped up because these aren't actual pull-ups, but my legs are doing most of the lifting of the work, but I got to keep my shoulder in motion here. So those are just rowing pull-ups, and then this is pull-ups, but my legs are on a chair. So for some reason this zoomed in a weird way. I'm not a video master. But my legs are doing most of the work there. They're on a chair. But I'm working my arms as much as I can. So then I got to lower my arm with the rope because it hurts too bad to just lower it. These are dips on rings. See, most of that is coming from my legs, but I've got to push with my knees to get it done. And so a lot of these workouts are 4:30 in the morning, and you're not seeing the tears. And you're not hearing the Metallica blaring in the headphones for motivation. But there's a lot of pain, and this hurts like all get out. Moving this iron thing, this mace it's called, to keep that motion in there, because otherwise you got to keep it in motion. You got to use it or you're going to lose it. This is overhead, which is incredibly painful.
One step at a time, literally. Merry Christmas.
Christmas Eve. And this was pushing the sled. So this is another week or so after that. Actually, this was before Christmas. This was mid-November. So here, I don't have plates. I never got videos of it, but now I'm able to stack plates all the way up that thing. I should have sped this one up, but I'm not that good at that stuff. It's like you really want to watch me just drag a sled. But anyway, this is all working on all planes and all motions, and it hurts. For me, I know I got to do it early in the morning. That's the sunrise, not the sunset. If I don't do it early in the morning, it's not happening. Then that's my dog. That's on the run where I record from the beginning. He loves me. He's a great running partner. We just adopted him after this. I don't know how people do it without dogs. Dogs and Jesus. You got to begin. Everyone say begin.
Begin.
Begin. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. One of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes. So number 3 is create a culture of movement. I don't know if you can all see what's going on here, but this is 24-hour fitness. There's an escalator up to 24-hour fitness, and they're taking the escalator. So everything adds up either direction, good or bad. So what we've tried to create in my kids is a culture of movement. So I'm going to just go through a few of these. This was 7th grade trip with their school. The principal So cool. Let us do, it was full moon. It was up at Lassen. He let us do a midnight hike to go climb Lassen. For a principal to say that, he let 4 of us, these superstar kids, that's my son, and then Mary, and then Adam. These 2 are killing it. My son's killing it, just because we get up and it's like 10, we left at like 10 p.m., summited at about midnight to a full moon. If you haven't done that, that is a must. You might have to do some work to get there, but I'm telling you, it is so worth it. It is an extraordinary experience. Then the next morning we go and we climb Brokoff Mountain, which is here. This is anytime we're on any lake, we're finding the logs, we're spinning them, we're going crazy for hours. This is in San Diego. Notice how red my eyes kids are. That's because we were in the ocean for probably 8 or 9 hours. Then we got out and went on this bicycle thing for more hours, because a culture of movement is key. This is surfing, Whiskeytown Falls, snowshoeing all the time, a race, hiking. This is at the top of, it's called the Incline near the Air Force Academy, which is where my son, this is before he got into there, a CrossFit workout. Keeping moving all the time. This is my youngest son, Jacob. He has been a worker since birth. This is him picking blackberries, and we go through kayaking, and he wants to paddle some even when he was this young. We get on the front of the kayak, and he wants blackberries. He doesn't just want these blackberries. He's balancing on the kayaks. On the front of the kayak in the water, and he would fall into blackberries if he fell. He wants the highest up ones, because that's just how he's born. I just love that. This is while my oldest son, they were at a swim meet. He finished swimming. This is Henry Coe Park in Morgan Hill. We walk up, just had this most amazing walk. We did some running, heard all these turkeys. We saw a huge bull elk, it was just majestic. You're missing stuff if you're not moving your arse. This was called a Tough Mudder. This was an amazing race with some amazing people. Dr. Perry, some of you have been here long enough to have Dr. Perry. He's doing great down in Bakersfield now. Just a culture of movement, snowshoeing, running on the property, kayaking. His friend tanked out, so my son had to tow his friend with the kayak. Just the way that goes. My son Skyler, he's just starting pilot school for the Air Force. This is what it's about. Top of Mount Shasta with my second son Skyler. Hard climb. That is not easy. Here's the most important thing. Don't compare yourself. Do not compare yourself, okay? No matter how slow you go, you're still lapping everyone on the couch. 100% of the time. Someone's taking a picture. Take your time. Good. All good. Perfect. Number 4 is challenge thyself. This is my youngest son, Jacob. We're near the summit of Mount Shasta a couple years ago. And this is about his 8th vomit of the climb. He didn't do too well in the altitude. You know what he said to himself? He was green. He looked horrible. And he said, Dad, I knew I had to summit. I didn't tell him. This is up to him. I'm like, if you need to turn around, he's like, it was so, when we summited and we came back down, he said it was so terrible that I knew I had to summit, because I knew if I didn't, I'd have to go do it again. Now he wants to do it again. But that's just how it feels. People are like, do you like racing? I've done all kinds of, every type of racing, I think. And do I like it? I like it before and after. During is absolutely horrible, right? So, Cindy, I know you've raced a lot. It's absolutely horrible. It's the most painful thing ever. And you think, why do I do this? I don't know why, but it's cool before and after. So you challenge thyself. The principle of exercise is progressive resistance, which means I see people at every gym that I've been to, they've been doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And when we ask our body for the same thing over and over again, is it staying the same? No, it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's getting actually weaker. We have to progressively challenge ourselves more and more and more. Okay, so how do we challenge ourselves? One very important principle is with burst training. Now, I believe in endurance training and I believe in burst training, but which one of these guys looks more like he's strong and fit? Clearly the sprinter. He's a sprinter. He's a long distance runner. So we've got to do some burst training. Remember the 10 disciplines of fitness? We've got to do a lot more than just jog or walk or just one plain thing. So burst training means we're exercising at 90 to 100% of our max effort for 20 to 30 seconds. Now our max effort is different for every person, but your max heart rate is approximately 220 minus your age. Okay, so I'm 54, so mine is going to be 176 or so. Is that right, Joe? Yes, that's about, I need quick math there. So about 80% is going to be 80% of that heart rate is going to be a target heart rate. So around 140 for me, somewhere in there. You want to really be hitting that rev limiter kind of for 20 to 30 seconds. Causes the body to burn fat for the next 36 hours. We don't want to do it all the time. Even elite athletes should only do this 3 or 4 times a week. I wrote you a possible schedule later in this. I have you scheduled as once a week or maybe twice a week. More is not better. You have to rest between these. So there's a lot of physical and hormonal benefits to burst training, but one of which is you build stamina much more quickly than you do with just aerobic or training where you can still talk, okay? Fat expenditure is increased through growth hormone release, which is extremely important. When you do burst training, you release growth hormone, which causes you to burn fat over the next few days. So people say, oh, well, you're not burning fat when you're burst training. You're not, but for the next multiple days after that, you are burning fat. So this isn't, okay, let me share this first. If you can read a book, if you can watch a movie, or if you can learn a language during your workout, it probably ain't much of a workout. How many of you, she's on a chair. Now, she may have special reasons, and people need that, believe me, I know as well as anybody, but just kind of moving her feet along with that, that's not much of a workout. And if that's challenging her, or if something's challenging you, don't judge it. Challenge yourself, but try to grow out of it, okay? So like I said, those mornings where I'm literally crying in pain and in fear and in, what's the word? Shame, frustration, 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, you have to battle through that stuff because your mind will win or your mind will lose it for you. You can't let your mind lose it for you. You have to make a choice to win. So another basic workout plan, this is an amazing workout plan. How many of you have ever said, and I'm raising my hand, I don't have time to work out? Everyone, right? So can you fit 4 minutes into your day? You need to warm up beyond that, so forgive me, it's not exactly 4 minutes. Any of you know Brian Regan, the comedian? He talks about cooking Pop-Tarts, and he's reading the directions, and he's like, there are actually directions to this? Why doesn't it just have one step? Step? He's like, and then there's microwave directions. He's like, how long does it take to toast a Pop-Tart? 90 seconds if you want it dark? It's like, if you can't spare 90 seconds, you might want to loosen up your schedule. So 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 20 on, 20 off, 20 on, 2 minutes off, repeat sets as you progress. 3 days a week only. So now that means we got to really, really raise our heart rate. Now, what do we do during that? Sit-ups, push-ups, running, walking up a hill on a treadmill, kayaking, almost any activity where you move your body, where you're challenging yourself significantly. Your heart should be pumping when we're doing these 2 minutes off, okay? Now, not everyone can do a push-up, right? But you can do a movement like a push-up, and I'm not pushing on my right wrist for anything. This was a major setback, by the way. I injured it somehow doing I don't even know, something on Sunday. I don't know, and it's extra flared up more than it would be because the nerve signals are still not coming all the way through from my spinal cord. So it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. And I'm going to redline, I'm going to err on doing a little bit too much because, again, the thing that I said on that run, I don't want to end up crippled when I'm older. I can't afford that. Too many people are counting on me. But you can't do a push-up straight from the ground, but you might be able to do a push-up leaning like this, right? Or just barely against a wall. You might not be able to do a full squat, but you can probably do this much of a squat, right? You can scale these things and do any movement you want if you can scale it. Sit-ups, barely lift your upper body off the floor and then rest it down. Tabata, this is published by Dr. Izumi Tabata. He's a Japanese researcher on fitness, and what he found is that there is an interval scheme that produces the best fitness gains more than anything else known. And it's very simple. This is a 4-minute workout. 20 seconds on and 10 seconds off. Repeat for 8 rounds. Okay, so 20 on, 10 off, 20 on, 10 off, 20 on, 10 off. Most people do this where it's the same exercise each time, like you might be on a stationary bike is another great way to do this. Pedal super hard for 20 seconds. There are timers, there are apps that have Tabata timers on iPhones or Google, what do you call Androids? They're Tabata timers, so it times for you, or you can just sit and watch a clock on the wall. That is an amazing fitness scheme. So how many of you can fit 4 minutes into your day? Okay, now we're going to need to warm up and cool down, but not too much. How do we know if it's too much? That's my son Jacob. That's about 10 years ago. He is a fighter. Some of you already know this, but I'm going to brag about him for a second. He went to, I mentioned this, I think, even at the last talk, but it's like Zig Ziglar used to say, if you done it, it ain't bragging. And especially if it's your kid, I'm not even bragging about myself. He's at the Naval Academy, super, super difficult, like one of the hardest universities to get into anywhere in the world. He goes there, he's not only there, but you get ranked at the end of every semester based on military performance, academic performance, and athletic performance. So all three of those, he has the top score in every single one of those categories. Out of 1,285 midshipmen, their plebe year, which is their first year, he is ranked number 1. Very, very proud of that boy. He's a fierce competitor, but he's kind about competition too. But anyway, so for some people, we gotta say, get moving, pal. For him, we gotta say, you might want to tone it back a little. So when he was done with this workout, he collapsed, but not in danger. He's just like, he's tired. See the jump rope there, a little kettlebell, jumps for box jumps for jumping up and down, and then laps around the driveway with our makeshift homemade sled. The reason that I got rid of this is because years later, when his oldest brother and I, one of the strongest people I've ever met, he's way stronger than I've ever been, we had iron plates stacked all the way up on this thing, so it was, I don't even know, like 600 pounds or something. We're going down our street in our cul-de-sac, and I'm pushing and he's pulling, and we're just grinding, and boom, this thing breaks off, and I just plow right into the top of those plates and everything. Horrible shin bang. Anyway, so now you saw that my sled is now all metal. So metal is better than wood for a lot of things. Number 5 is be accountable and measure. So that's my favorite human being in the world. Truly the greatest person ever. My wife, Dee, on our right. And that's her good friend, Denise. So for me, I train alone almost all the time. It just works better for me. I don't know why. I don't like waiting for people. I work out at different times. It just works better for me. And I don't necessarily have a problem with motivation, though when I am with people, I would work a little bit harder. But for me, and it's also, I'm around people all day. I'd like to kind of get in the zone by myself and stuff. And so that's just me. For her, she likes to have a workout partner. So be accountable. For me, it means, we'll talk about more how I become accountable to myself in other ways. But for her, it's like I'm meeting her at the gym at 9 a.m. So guess what? 8:15 a.m. Does she feel like working out? Most of the time, no. Do you think I feel like working out most of the time? Most of the time, no. It's just a choice. But because she's going to meet her friend, guess what? She's going to show up because she doesn't want her friend to be disappointed, right? That's we got to play tricks on ourselves sometimes. And I'm only talking about myself. I'm dumb sometimes, so I have to coerce myself like my dog. I got to coerce myself into doing the right things by playing tricks on myself. So for me, accountable means scheduling things, but for her, it means meeting friends. Plus, she's so social, and she kind of has the opposite day most of the time. She's home with the dog throwing the ball 50,000 times to play fetch while she's trying to do taxes and keep this place afloat. Measure, super, super important. Now that means many different things. It can mean weigh yourself on a scale, but what this more means is if you can bench press 40 pounds today, what should you bench press in a month? 42 pounds. And then in 2 months, 44 pounds. Obviously, if we progressed our whole life, I'd be bench pressing 17,480 pounds by now. So there's a limit to that, right? But you should be progressing in your things, right? But this also might mean that some of us need to shed some pounds, and so we might want to measure with our scale, but please don't rely too much on a scale. It's a horrible measure of health. Measurement, now that could be distances we can walk or distances we can run. Or let's say that I really, really want to run a 5K, okay? So now I can only run from my driveway to the mailbox, which is 40 feet away, which is perfectly reasonable. A lot of people, that's exactly where they are. So what you want is now it's 40 feet to the mailbox. But next month, it better be the next mailbox, right? We want to measure. If we don't measure these things, we have no idea where we are and no idea where we're going. We're just kind of floating around and doing the same thing, okay? So this could be measuring body parts too. You maybe want to measure your biceps or your thighs or your waist. Time it. So again, let's say that I can do a whatever, a 5K in 25 minutes or whatever your time is, you hope to improve that and to make that better over time. Does that all make sense? Another way to measure is this. So one tenet of the Royce household is we built a flagstone patio with no idea what we were doing, except we knew we needed road base and gravel and dirt and stuff. And so we had to haul this into the backyard. And we're not using tractors because if you ever do work like this, you feel really stupid going to a gym because it's the most pointless thing ever, though I still do it because I don't have dirt to haul all the time. So here's how we measure that. How many wheelbarrows can we get in 20 minutes to a certain depth, right? Or how long does it take us to run 15 wheelbarrows or something like that? We make it a game. My kids have been eating this stuff up. I've been eating this stuff up for years, and it works, let me tell you. So that kind of work is amazing for your body. So we have a saying in powerlifting or in CrossFit, it's like someone is farmer strong. It means they grew up on a farm and they're just naturally stronger than any of us because they grew up moving heavy stuff. So that's the way we do gardening and fitness around my house a lot. Consider a coach. So this is my son Jacob, the Naval Academy kid. That's at the top of Glacier Point in Yosemite. Gosh, that's an amazing place. So did we drive to Glacier Point? That's very possible, or most of the time it is. No, we decided we were going to hike from the base, so that's like a 4,000 foot climb, and guess how many feet down from there? If you look over there, how many of you ever stood on that or been near it? That's an amazing, amazing, amazing view. So, but consider a coach because sometimes it takes a coach to get where we want to go. So I have a couple of coaches for you, people who are amazing with this. This guy, his name is Kevin Sutmiller, and he's the one who brought me stuff. So I want to hand these out. You guys, if you would, pass these out. I'll just pass them in. Oh, you can, Connor. That's great. Thank you. So Kevin, he's the first guy ever to bring CrossFit to Reading. He's been in the fitness world for a long time. And what he does is personal fitness training. And he does it a few different ways. He does it so that either you go in with him all the time, or he'll go and he'll make a program for you and then you go do it on your own. And he's given a discount to people who are here. I think his normal assessment is like $80, but he'll do one for $39. And I don't, obviously I don't get anything out of that, and obviously that's 100% fine. But I really, really believe in him. He helps people age with strength and grace. And for me, there's no shame in getting a trainer. I think it really, really helps you move correctly, do things safely, and often push yourself further than you would. So the agecoach.com, or you can reach him there. This is Jamie Reindell. He's another trainer. He's trained my family and me for years. He trains a lot of my patients. He doesn't have as much space as Kevin does. He's been doing specifically personal training for longer. You can feel free to take a picture of that. I didn't make handouts for this. We were a little bit late in getting this together, and I completely changed the talk at 3 a.m. this morning just because that's the way this goes sometimes. His office, if you will, it's a small gym down Pine Street. It's at Pine and Placer. He's an amazing guy. He has such a variety of different training. Quick story about me and him. He trained me for a long time, and I just love him. He's one of the funniest human beings I know. So for me, like speed and agility isn't as solid as like endurance and strength. So he has all these punching bags, like boxing punching bags set up in a circle in this big metal rig. And we go around and I'm punching him, and you got it's for time. You go to minute, you get as many hits as hard as you can in like a minute as possible. So I'm hitting this bag and run to this bag and hit this bag, and one hits me as it swings back and almost like knocks me over. But I keep going. So we had to laugh like a headline in a newspaper: local chiropractor loses fight with inanimate object. And so I don't know, just you gotta laugh at yourself because the other thing about having a trainer is, I know for me, I haven't had a trainer for years, like since before Ironman. So I had a coach online that would help me do stuff for Ironman, but having someone watch you do stuff can make such a difference. The other thing is, I don't know if any of you do this, if you programmed your own training, but I tend to do the stuff I'm best at versus like the trainer's going to program a snatch, which I'm terrible at, which is an Olympic lift, and it's a very, very athletic movement. You got to get it up above your head. You got to be very fast and very powerful. I'm not very good at that at all. I haven't done them for a long time because it's just, I tend to program what I'm really, really good at. But Jamie's really good and Kevin is really good. Jim's House is a group training facility that's a lot like a CrossFit gym. There are a lot of CrossFit gyms. Now, people are afraid of CrossFit, and I understand that because some people do get injured in CrossFit. When I started CrossFit in 2009, it was a lot more dangerous than it is now. It was more like, here, go snatch that weight 100 times for time. Now there's a programming, and they teach you the movements, and they teach them safely, and generally you're in a safe environment, and they scale everything. So a top competitive CrossFit athlete might be lifting 300 pounds, you might be lifting 20 pounds, but you're all doing the same movements. Remember how we talked about grandmas and grandpas, and we all have the same needs, right? And Olympic athletes have the same needs, it's just in weight or kind. So Jim's House is like a CrossFit gym, but they're a little bit more flexible about the movements and things. And I know them personally, I've known them a long time. This is down Hartnell and Shasta View, near there. They're amazing. So you can, Jim's House SC, strengthandconditioning.com. They're great people. That's another option. I don't know if you guys know about this, but for those of you who have Medicare, there's a program from Medicare called Silver Sneakers, which makes many gym memberships at many gyms in town free. And not all of it is, everything is free in there, but a lot of it is certain classes are free, and that's absolutely amazing. I'd say our federal government paid for it, but really you pay for it. We pay for it with our taxes, right? And that's good. That's the kind of thing I think it should go for. Man, if everyone worked out, they'd save trillions of dollars just in there. Doge, tell people to work out. That's another story for another time. But Silver Sneakers is an amazing program. Classes can be amazing. There's so many cool classes. Almost every gym has different, like Pilates and yoga and strengthening, and I mean, just amazing stuff. And that's a way that you don't have to, like, personal trainers can be expensive. They can be 80, 90, 100 bucks a session, some of them. And you want to go 2 or 3 times a week. It's like, I don't have that kind of money. A lot of you don't either. So like, this is a really good balance to go in a class where people are kind of watching you and you do different movements. That can be absolutely amazing. And with that said, make it fun, okay? Find things that you really, really enjoy and get outside. I do treadmills sometimes, and my wife has a Peloton. I mean, I'm in there sometimes. I do it, but I just consider it torture. It's just, I mean, I still do it sometimes because sometimes you just got to do it and it's quick, but it's like, ugh. I sweat like some sort of rabid animal when I'm on those things. And it's like, I have trouble. It's like, it's gritting. It's all just straight pain for me. So I like to be outside and make everything a game. This is where Dee and I, this is way after we got engaged, but we got engaged just above here on a backpacking trip where we went and we swam to. This is Emerald Bay. There's an island in there, so we swam to it. Then we came back and hiked way up into the wilderness. This was her final challenge to see if she was worth marrying. Actually, the test was on me. Just kidding. Dee, I love you, honey. I'm just playing. No, but it was our kind of fun trip. Yeah, dang it. We haven't recorded. Sorry, hon. Hi, Mom. So, like in the NFL. But anyway, so no, this was like our final. This wasn't it, but this is where we were for our final weekend. This was like before we got engaged. This was a repeat of that. Actually, for whatever this is worth, you know how we hear of runner's high? You change your brain chemistry when you're running. If you haven't experienced that, I highly recommend it. Like Ferris Bueller says, I highly recommend you pick up a Ferrari like this if you have the means. It is so choice. Anyway, it really is a thing. And if you've never pushed through that barrier to get that, I highly recommend it. But the reason I'm telling you that is because when I discovered that she was my wife, that she was the one God had picked for me, was during an Ironman, my first Ironman in 1996. And it was like, because I can be pretty thick-skulled, and it was, we only dated for 9 months before I proposed to her, but it was like, some of those months were kind of like, I should have figured it out a lot earlier. And it was like, dude, God had to get me on my back, literally, to say, propose better than you does. Anyway, I don't think he said that, but. So ideas of how to enjoy being outside: walking or hiking, biking, dancing, sports, jumping rope, creative work around the house like we talked about. I don't have on here paddleboarding or kayaking, but that can be amazing. And like, you go out to Whiskey Town, you don't even know you're working a lot of times. We live in the most spectacular area I've ever been. And speaking of, like, my youngest son Jacob and I, California can be challenging for a variety of reasons, but in a 2-month period, we ran a marathon that you'll see a picture of in Napa, this gorgeous hilly country. It was so beautiful. We did that climb to Glacier Point in Yosemite. We climbed Mount Shasta. We were in Monterey, and we swam in the ocean there. It was so beautiful. This this, obviously. And then the next day after we were in Monterey, we're driving through on Highway 101 from Monterey toward San Jose. And I don't know if you've been there, but there's a canopy of eucalyptus trees that completely covers 101 for like 500 yards. And as God would have it, traffic was completely backed up as we were trying to go through there. And it was pouring rain right in all that eucalyptus. We rolled down the windows and opened the sunroof because I have a pickup and I don't care. And that smell of the eucalyptus trees through there, it was just the most intoxicating thing. And there's no replacement for that. You can buy eucalyptus diffuser, but that's not the same. Sometimes you got to earn it. We didn't earn anything. We were just in the truck. But it was like, and then the next day we drove into San Francisco, and it was Christmas, not Christmas Eve, but it was the week before Christmas. And we went shopping all through San Francisco for Christmas and just had the most amazing meals and had the perfect sunny day in San Francisco. And I just thought, this is the most beautiful place on earth. This state, from Monterey to Yosemite to Tahoe to this is the best. All through the hills, all through here, the lakes. We are so blessed. Get out and see it and enjoy it. Even if you have to drive right to some trailhead and then walk 50 feet, doesn't matter. Next time you walk 70 feet, okay? So there are ways. Get out in nature. That's my son Bo. That's in San Luis Obispo. So when we go visit him, I'm going this weekend to go visit him in San Luis Obispo. When he's there, we sit around and eat a lot too, but we also go and hike. It's astonishing what's in that city too. Just astonishing. Number 7 is plan and compete. Here's what I mean. There's all sorts of different competitions. This is my own competition within myself. I decided that I was going to there's a workout in CrossFit called Murph. And a lot of CrossFit athletes will do this every single Memorial Day. And what it is you run a mile and then you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and then 300 squats, and then you run a mile again, all for time. Now, the way they do it, the way I've done it in the past is with a weight vest, but I wanted to beat 30 minutes for that. So that means 7-minute mile followed by, you have to be moving as fast, almost as fast as my speed will allow, nonstop, squat, pull-up, squat, pull-ups, push-ups, squats, and then another mile. So I had to go very, very fast. And I did it in 29:01. So in order to do that, you're competing against, it's only me, but I'm competing. And so, or schedule a race. We'll talk about it in a minute. This is the Tin Man Triathlon. If you ever want to do a triathlon, if you're ever thinking about it, or even a leg of a triathlon. So people do relays where if you're the best biker, maybe someone's a swimmer, someone's a runner, they do that relays. It's pretty simple. It's not super long distance. But what happens is, there's an old saying in chiropractic, it may precede chiropractic, but nothing focuses the mind like being hanged at dawn. So when you schedule a race, right, when you know you're going to do a century on a certain day, what are you doing the months before? You're pedaling, you're in the saddle, you're working. So that's what happens. That's my trick to myself is I know, or like Trans Tahoe Relay, this is a super fun race. It's 6 people across Tahoe, 11 and a half miles. You go half hour each and then you swap. This isn't our boat, but there's a picture of another boat just so you know what it looks like. It's just so much fun. And you have the camaraderie of being on a relay team. It's just absolutely amazing. And no one cares how fast you are. That's the beauty of the community of these things. There can be an Olympic athlete there who's just as happy for you that you barely made the race or whatever. It's such a community. These people are like the best people. Everyone's like together, and the top elite level athletes, maybe they're not always the nicest, but because they're so focused on training. But there's so many things that you can do. Coming up, there is, and I'm pushing to train for this, and there's this setback, which set me back a little bit, but April 27th, there is a half marathon, a 10K, and a 5K. So 5K is 3.1 miles. You can walk it. Most of you can walk 3.1 miles, right? Suggestion, maybe schedule for that, right? It's not super close. I mean, it's not super far in the distance, but so for me, the longest I've run was that Chemise Peak run, which was 7.5 miles. you go up it, then down, and then to the ditch trail and stuff. But so I got to increase like a mile a week, and my recovery isn't what it was pre-injury. So that's the thing, though, is you kind of push yourself a little bit. Now, there's a fine line because you don't want to go too far. But you want to have your body, you want to be pushing yourself just a little bit all the time because, again, you got to trick yourself a little bit. So here's a weekly plan example of training. The caveat, always warm up properly. So if you go to Tabata, we have this joke that like on a drive to LA, we made up that we're going to do the hardest CrossFit workout and we're going to just driving for 3 hours straight, then we're just going to park and get out and start the workout, right? Bench pressing 200 pounds and deadlifting 315 pounds 100 times and that kind of a thing. Probably not a good idea. So always warm up properly. And if you need tips on warming up, we can talk about that. But Sunday, a whole body strengthening, which means weights, followed by 20 minutes of cardio, which can be a brisk walk, jog, swim, row or bike, any of those. Monday, 45-minute cardio, fairly easy and steady. So that might be a walk, okay? But if you're going to walk where you're walking at a pace that it challenges you a little bit and try to do some hills. The north side, well, both sides of the river trail have hills, but the north side has some pretty awesome hills to walk on. Plus, it's just absolutely stunning. Clover Creek Preserve, I live near there. We're always on that thing. And then Tuesday, strength cardio combo. So like a class, which would be CrossFit type class or Jim's House, a Silver Sneakers class. The Y has all kinds of classes. Sun Oaks, what used to be Kangaroo Courts, but it's now, what is it, Shasta? Anyone know? On Park Marina. Shasta Athletic Club, thank you. They have these gyms have awesome classes. They're all competing. So then Wednesday, anaerobic intervals. So Tabata is that 20 seconds on, 10 off for 8 rounds, okay? So you might need to build to 3 rounds of Tabata, right? So you might do push-ups for the first one and squats for the second one and then sit-ups for the third one. Does that make sense? Or some people will do have 4 exercises. So the first 20 seconds is push-ups, then you stand up real quick, you do squats, and then you do sit-ups, and then you do as many pull-ups or variations in pull-ups as you can do. So they're doing 4 exercises each, so they'd go through, push-ups would go twice, if that makes sense, squats would go twice, sit-ups would go twice, and pull-ups would go twice. Thursday, yoga is an amazing, amazing recovery tool. There's so many resources to do yoga. There's a Balanced Yoga Center in town, which is amazing. But if any of you have a Peloton has, you pay a membership every month, but they have classes on yoga. YouTube has hundreds of yoga classes. The challenge with YouTube is you got to go through all the ads. In a minute, you're going to see a video where you're going to have to suffer through an ad, and I apologize for that in advance. But Friday, 45-minute cardio, moderate difficulty. So maybe a little bit more difficult than the Tuesday one was, where you're walking up the hills a little bit faster, where you're sweating a little bit, and kind of what moderate difficulty would mean you can talk, but it's hard to talk. Like you can't just talk super fluidly. Easy difficulty like the Tuesday would be you can talk pretty easily most of the time, where you might be challenged to talk just a little bit. Okay. Saturday, rest and recover. A gentle walk, kayak, easy bike outside, or nothing, or just relax on Saturday. Okay. That's doable, isn't it? Like it shouldn't be more than about an hour a day. Sometimes if you're really competing or something, it might be more than that. But to be fit, and you can't win unless you first begin, so start now. That's more pixelated than I thought. And so the journey of 1,000 miles starts with what do the Buddhists say? With a single step. That's at the Grand Canyon. Oh, no, this was further apart than those 8 weeks, but this was my youngest and me at the Grand Canyon. Gosh, if you haven't been there. And the thing with fitness is, sometimes these things come up on a whim. We decided that week we were going to the Grand Canyon, got so lucky to get lodging there right at the time. But it's like, you never know what you're going to be called to do. It might be to carry your spouse out of an icy hole. It might be to rescue a child. It might be just to simply go for a hike. Have your body ready for that. My goal is to be ready for anything at any time. Now, it's not going to be I'm not ready for an Ironman right now or whatever, but we want to be ready for as push out as hard as we can to be as strong as we can be. But that journey starts with a single step. I want to show you this video. You might have seen it. It's an oldie, but a very, very goodie. So we have to suffer through an ad first. Oh no, good. It's not showing for you, is it? Wow. Luckily, Connor's good at this stuff. So you drive completely. You have to reset.
The north rim of the Grand Canyon?
That was the south rim.
Yeah.
We've not been to the north rim.
There's a lot more trees. It's pretty.
We went down into the canyon. We just didn't have time to go all the way through to the other side.
I think your computer just died.
Oh, the battery's dead? Okay, so no problem. That was the last thing. So what that shows is this amazing journey of this Vietnam veteran, in fact, who had multiple jumps, severely injured his knees and his back and was very disabled. And he could barely walk. He had assistants, they're like crutches to walk, and he seemed like a very angry person. Who's seen this? Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And he starts a yoga journey, and that was his choice, but he's doing a little bit better every day. And he gets like in a stance and he falls over. We see him fall a whole bunch of times, and man, do I relate to that. This was some hard stuff, but he gets better and better and better until the end of the video. I don't know how long the whole journey is, but it's got to be well over a year. He loses a whole bunch of weight, and you see him running, and he's in this amazing full yoga squat with a heart symbol like this, and it's just it's just a tearjerker. Excuse me. But that is basically all that I had to share. Is you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And take care of yourself, because there are a lot of people counting on you, whether you are, no matter what you do professionally, whether you're done working or whatever you do, take care of yourself so you can be as productive as possible for this world, okay? So that is it, all I had to share. Are there any questions? I'm happy to stay for some questions.